Well, hi, this is Lynn McCright with the Austin area chapter of the Holistic Nurses. And we're here tonight. It's the 28th of November, and we're going to be talking about emotional well-being. And it's a topic that is very popular at holiday time. And somehow, especially this year, it's been a challenging year for a lot of people. And I know that nurses are feeling that in their clients every day. And so we wanted to bring something to you that is a lighthearted and very beneficial way to look at yourself first, and then beyond that, to see what's happening with others. So first, Teresa is our co-leader for our Austin area chapter, and she's going to make an announcement about an in-person meeting that's coming up in February.
Great. Thanks, Lynn. So in February, we are going to be honored by AHNA to come to Houston on February 2nd to do a regional conference. It's a one-day conference on February 2nd, which is a Friday. Our keynote speaker will be Jane Foote. I think, isn't she the current president?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken. Yes.
That's right.
And so the learning outcomes are going to be discussing relationship between self-care and prevention of nurse burnout. Describe why self-care is essential to personal thriving and quality patient care. And describe the interrelationship of the mind, body, spirit, self-care connection. I don't think we have let me look. I want to see if we have last I saw, we did not have a location yet, just a date. I know Mary Turner is working on that. Lynn and I will be responsible for the centerpieces on the tables, so that will be interesting. Location is the KBC Houston. Hang time, mid-high room 2130. So I do not know where that's at, but the address is on the flyer, and I dropped the information details in the chat here for anyone who wants to grab it. So anyway, I'm looking forward to it. It's a first in-person one that we've had with the national office of people coming here to do a conference for us. So it'll be exciting to get together and see everyone. I've heard from quite a few people that are coming, so I think it's only $97, which is really reasonable
For an all-day conference. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
six CEs.
Great. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and introduce our topic, Teresa. And I've given the share, I think, to you. Check it out.
Okay. All right. So correction, it's $90 registration and includes a free lunch. Just so we know.
That's great. That's great.
So tonight I am going to do a little presentation on stress reduction and emotional well-being with my Truth Meter care plan that I created in June. The name keeps changing, so this is a new name. So I'm kind of excited to see how that works out.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Come on from the beginning. Here we go. There. So stress reduction and emotional well-being, the resilience principles paradigm. And we'll describe what that resilience principles paradigm is in just a second. You know, it seems like we've all been under a lot of stress, but it seems like we're kind of ebbing and flowing now. Like it doesn't seem like the stress level is clear up here all the time. We're kind of coming down and going back up, but I think people are still finding that they are experiencing physical symptoms, mental symptoms in the form of maybe worry. I hear a lot of people talk about brain fog, sleeplessness, anything that kind of touches on this irritability and not knowing what to do and restlessness. All of those symptoms come from stress. We're very used to them, I think. I didn't really know that that I was experiencing stressful symptoms because I didn't pay attention to them. I thought it looked normal. I thought the way that my life was going, that this was just a normal part of it. Life is stressful. It was a little bit hard. And I just kind of got used to it. And then I realized we don't have to. We don't have to give in to all of those lower range emotions, because there is hope for us. I think I got stuck in this fight or flight cycle where it's like everything seemed like a threat. Everything seemed like I had to pay attention to it. You know, it was actually only intended to be used for a very short period of time. Life-threatening events, activate this system for 30 minutes just to save your life, to run away from the danger, to make a decision to save yourself, essentially. The problem is in modern day society, there's a lot of stressors, a lot of fight, flight, freeze responses, but there's nowhere to go. There's no actual tiger coming to get us kind of idea, but our bodies don't know that. And so we are still producing all the hormones, all the emotions that go with this response. This response system is called the hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis cascade. You know, in nursing school, we're very used to talking about this. We know what it is. We know that long-term stress kills people. There is some schools of thought, and I tend to agree, that short-term stress is not a bad thing. It moves us to do things. It makes us do the things that we're supposed to do, whether it's taking a test or, you know, meeting a deadline, any of those kinds of things. But we're not activating this system for long periods of time. So when we activate this system through worry, dis-ease, lack of self-care, sleepless nights, we can really be pretty sure that our cortisol levels are pretty high. And what happens in a stress response? We dump all the sugar from our liver into our bloodstream. Heart rate goes up, blood vessels tense, get tight, muscles tense, our cortisol levels go up, our digestion stops, we get tunnel vision, so we can't see as well, and we are singular focused on saving our life, even if there's not a threat. And that's where we find all of our disease that we talk about now: diabetes, heart disease, adrenal fatigue, high blood pressure. Everything that we treat and put Band-Aids on comes from this stress response. And I'm not saying to not take medicines and treat ourselves. We have a medical system that has some very, very good protocols to help people live much longer lives. But the one thing that we never talk about is the mental aspect of how do we really decrease our stress, and what does that look like? So the effects of stress on our brain, this right here is a normal brain. It fires, it goes away. It does not stay activated at all times. It just does what it needs to do. It gives us the information that we need. It sends signals to our body. We don't do anything to do that. In acute pain, as you can see over here, it fires all of the nerves and our brain lights up and we're going, oh, something's wrong, let's fix this. They're like love letters to ourselves. Pay attention, something's happening. But in chronic pain, as you can see, those signals get even bigger and they don't go away as quickly. And that's when we start to wonder what's wrong with us. Okay, now something's really going on. I need to pay attention. Sometimes we'll have a health crisis. It's our body trying to catch our attention. So chronic stress is really when we are losing our bearings. We're trying to multitask. We think that we can be superhuman. We can do it all, take care of the kids, cook the meals, go to work. We might sleep if we're lucky. And you know, our body heals when we're asleep. And I can't tell you how many people I talk to who do not sleep well. They wake up at 2, 4, 6, and then it's time to get up for the day. And I don't think we really stop and realize our bodies love routine. They love us to pay attention and say, what can I do in this moment? What is my body telling me and asking me to do? So if we stop and think about it for a minute, chronic mental stress, activation of these stress response over and over, we all know what it feels like: tension, headaches, edginess. They're love letters to our bodies. They're love letters to ourselves that's trying to get our attention. And Dr. Pettit is the one that called them love letters for the first time that I heard about it. And he's like, think about what you're doing with your thinking. How do you actually experience life except for through your thoughts? It's a system that is directly connected to our neural networks, to our environment, to everything around us. It's our connection to everything. It's literally life itself. So this is kind of the stress cycle that we go through. We call it the principle of thought. Thought as a principle isn't necessarily what you think, but that you think. And that thinking is a human being's navigator. It's our rudder to life. It gives us information that we can articulate, that we can think about, we can be aware of. But when it gets dysregulated, we call it stress, and it activates this HPA, this hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis, and does all these wonderful chemical things to our bodies, including our hormones. The hormone cortisol. Have you ever been in a room full of angry people? You can feel it, because cortisol leaks out your pores and literally goes 3 feet outside of your body and jumps onto other people's bodies and increases their cortisol level. So when we're in those states, we see why people begin to act the same, having the same kinds of stressful thinking, because we're so integrated into our system, this life that we have, that we don't realize that it's truly this thought-created world that allows us to experience life in a very unique way to us, in a very personal way. And every single person experiences it differently. And then once those chemicals leave our body, when you activate that system, adrenaline usually only lasts about 3 minutes in the body because its half-life is so short. So then we call it stress resolution, like we calm down, we feel a little better, but we really want to work on this stress prevention. How do we prevent this stress from overwhelming us and appearing to take over and cause this dysregulation in our systems and allows us to live a better life, literally? Did you have anything to add, Lynn?
No, I was just thinking that Dr. Pettit's video is actually on our Austin area website. So if you're interested in hearing more about, he calls it, there's only, he says there's only one, well, does he call it a problem, Teresa?
I don't. One cause, one cure.
One cause. And there's just one cause of all mental illness and most physical illness. And it's a wonderful video. It would be well worth your time to look at it. And he just articulates all of this so beautifully. He's a retired, now back to work, psychiatrist, and is one of the leading teachers of the principles of resilience.
So the formula is mind, which is all the knowledge of the entire universe, God, innate health, consciousness, our awareness that we think, that we're alive, that we're in this world, and thought, And remember, these are principles. This is neutral principles that actually create our personal reality. And it recreates it through this thought that we have as human beings. We are the only creatures on the earth that actually are aware of our thinking. Animals have consciousness, but they don't, if you watch them, they don't
Think about their thoughts.
they don't think about their thoughts. They don't observe them. They just do. So the resilience principles, this is something, a concept and a way of talking about how humans work, their thought process as it relates to resilience. So we call it what it is not, because we're talking about these foundational principles that we call mind, consciousness, and thought. They are neutral principles that every human being gets to use to experience life with. And the way we've been talking about it as resilience is overcoming circumstances, or maximizing strengths, or minimizing risk factors. Some people think it's a person's personality that, well, they're just like that. It's easy for them. It's not so easy for me. Or if you have a traumatic past, things that you could control in your past seem to limit our resilience at times.
So what Teresa's talking about is the way that conventionally it's being seen now.
Yes.
What resilience is, and what we're saying is what it's not. So this is a list of how it's being looked at currently, but we're about to share with you the really good news.
Thanks, Lynn. So what is resilience about? Resilience is not being bound by circumstances or the past. And this definition came from Dr. Keith Blevins' wife, Valda Monroe, as she thought about, well, if it's not all of those things, what is it? And that's when she came up with this: resilience is not being bound by circumstances or the past. And I am a professional past circumstance believer that was what was happening to me. It was my circumstance, it was my past, all the things I had done were limiting beliefs. And I didn't know.
Involve any worry, Teresa?
Oh, just maybe a little bit. I was a professional worrier. My whole family is. I think it's probably one of the biggest diseases that we have in this society is we worry about everything as if we can control something by that. In my family, the more you worry about someone, that means the more you love them. And so I was really good at it. The problem with it is as some big things were happening in my family, I was getting sicker. I had about 5 years of chronic pain. You know, it comes on subtly and you just don't feel good one day, or you just kind of start thinking, well, I'm getting older. It's just a part of life. And then one day it was like, I am so exhausted. I can't get up. What is wrong with me? So then I started going to all the tests. I thought, well, I've got rheumatoid arthritis because I feel like I can't hardly move my body. Maybe I have depression. So I go to the psychologist, psychiatrist. I thought, somebody's got to know what to do with me, right? 2 years of doctor's appointments. I had no diagnosis and no treatment. And so when that happens, you know, I had chronic plantar fasciitis for about a year, and it was awful. And I thought, how do I get out of this pain? Or do I just lay down and forget it? Do I just stop, you know? And well, Lynn knows the story, but my history is, after 5 years of doing that, Lynn and I had met, and we were talking about trying to do something with the holistic nurses, because, you know, we just have a heart for wanting to help people heal. But I didn't even know how to heal myself. I wasn't sure what to do with that. So what do good nurses do? We focus on everyone else. we'll fix everyone else. And she says, well, I know the one thing that I'd like to do is teach people how the mind works. There's something called the 3 principles. And I was like, well, that sounds good. What is it? And she goes, well, I can't teach it to you. You have to experience it. And my little mind didn't like that very well. I'm like, I can learn anything. But it was about 6 months later, we had a conference where Dr. Keith Blevins, came and talked about these 3 principles, mind, consciousness, and thought, in a completely new way. And it piqued my interest. I was ready to hear what he had to say. And on the second morning, I heard something about separate realities that rocked my world. And so we're going to talk about that. It was just amazing to me to realize that 3 principles in this description as elements of life that create a new paradigm, because it's completely outside the box of what we've been taught up until now. And the principles of mind, consciousness, and thought as neutral energy principles, life, God, are responsible for every single thing in the universe. And we as human beings get to use it however we want. And so these terms are a metaphor. You know, there's many different cultures, many different ways to talk about it. So if you have a certain belief, think about it in terms of your belief, but as a neutral principle and not what you've already thought or determined about it. So the principle of mind, Dr. Blevins, I hear his voice every time I see this. Mind is not brain. He's a psychologist, a scientific psychologist. And he said, the first time I heard that, it blew my mind. He's like, what do you mean that the brain is not mind? It's not your mind is not your brain. You can't hold it in your hand. It's a power. It's this power of mental life that is an energy force that we have connection to at all times. It's the catalyst of how we see reality. It's the intelligence behind life. It took me a while to really grasp that this was bigger than I thought it was. I intellectualized it at first. I was like, yeah, I can see that mind's not brain. But as I began to understand, oh no, it's really not. And then we talked about the principle of consciousness, this incredible nature that gives us this capability that makes us aware of life. Again, I talked a minute ago about it makes us aware of our thoughts. We can actually observe ourselves thinking and gain insight into that. So we're aware of our reality because of consciousness and through our 5 senses, our interconnectedness of our nervous system, our senses, the world around us. It's all one thing. But the true power really does come through this power of thought. It's a neutral power. Thought just is. It's a constant flow of ideas from the very best to the very worst. Some of us would never admit some of the thoughts that we've had. Or some of the things that we thought were true that found out they weren't true. But without thought, we couldn't recognize mental life at all. And it's in this recognition that we begin to see how we can help ourselves with our mental health, our physical health, and living a life that we enjoy. Because our life is experienced through our personal thought. We have free will. And that gives us each this individual way of viewing life. So the resilience principles create a new paradigm. Because the principles are connected together, they actually, if one of them is missing, we don't have a psychological experience of life. It just would not exist. Without mind, there would be no knowledge. Without consciousness, there would be no awareness. And without thought, there wouldn't be anything. So they cannot be separated as elements that create this paradigm, this inseparable paradigm. We now have something that we can count on that never changes, that helps us at any moment in time. And the only time we really get to use these principles is in this present moment. So it's your superpower. Your thoughts, your feelings, your way of being create your life experience. You bring your ego with you everywhere you go. It doesn't always tell you the truth, but there it is. It's a keeper of your knowledge. And insight into how this works is what does the heavy lifting and the healing.
Oh, Teresa, how beautiful. That's just so beautiful. I'm realizing that Dr. Keith Blevins' video is on our Austin area website as well.
Oh, wonderful. If you have any opportunity to see any of Dr. Pettit's work or any of Dr. Blevins' work, I encourage you to look. Amazing teachers, amazing human beings. I have learned so much from them, and from just experience and being open, allowing new knowledge to come in.
Wow.
You know, and this place here of, you know, we've all felt this place of calm, this being present, looking out at nature often, or looking at children. When we're in a nice calm state, everything is beautiful. Have you ever noticed that? It's like, I was in France in July, and I got to be by myself in this amazing house, looking out this red shuttered window into this amazing courtyard and watch the rabbits play. And I think, to my recollection, it's been at least 25 years since I ever felt that way. I didn't slow down long enough to enjoy the rabbits playing, to hear what was there and available for me to feel that connection to my environment and to myself and to the thoughts that I was having. And as I sat there and just really appreciated watching the rabbits play, this thought came over me like a wave. It was kind of funny. It was like an actual feeling. And the thought that came with it was, you're not as kind to yourself as you think you are. And I was like, what? I've been doing a lot of self-care. And then I realized I've been doing a lot of what I thought was self-care. And it looks very different now. Self-care happens when you drop out of your own thinking and you listen for that next step and you take the next right step for you. That was a different come from as I was able to listen to my own thinking. This is where I spent most of my time. You know, when the last few years I was working, you know, of course, 2 of it was after COVID, during COVID and after, I didn't feel connected to anybody or anything. I woke up, I went to work, I took care of people, I came home, I slept the best I could, I got up and I did it again, over and over and over. There wasn't time to think. And the more disconnected I felt, the more stressed I was. To the point where I was having so much indigestion and shortness of breath and this feeling of overwhelm that I thought, I just can't make it anymore. I just can't do this anymore. And on the heels of that thought, I realized once again, I was using my thought in a way that didn't serve me. And I remembered moments of joy, moments of happiness. And I realized that I really hadn't lost my way. I just allowed these overwhelming thoughts to take over and I didn't notice it. So as soon as I could remember to calm down and go, oh, look what you've been doing with your own thinking. No, it works that way. It works exactly that way. My thoughts create my feelings, and that was my experience. But it's so subtle that I didn't even notice. The beauty is when you notice that that's what's happening, the lightness comes back, that feeling of ease comes back. And I'm so grateful to know that. This is one of the questions I ask myself when I realize I'm suffering again, because it seems like I have to keep coming back and forth to this. But where do you think your feelings are coming from? You know, is it coming from your work? Is it coming from your relationships? Is it coming from your family? None of those things are responsible for how you feel. You get to decide what those things are. Some people call it attached well-being. Like, I'll be okay when my family's okay. I'll be okay when my job's okay.
Wow.
And the bottom line is that's not true. We can still be okay even in the midst of chaos. And that was a huge life lesson. I
Oh,
had a patient.
about that 36-hour weekend, Teresa.
Yeah, I had one of those. I was on call for 36 hours in the PACU. Not on call. I was on call from Friday at 7 till Monday at 7. And I worked 36 hours that weekend. We had 6 incredibly critical patients during the weekend. And we coded the last patient at like 11 o'clock at night on Sunday night. And I was just thinking to myself, wow, I can't believe that I just worked all of these hours and I didn't feel stressed at all. I just stayed in the moment. I did the next best thing, the next best thing. And I realized that's where the ease is. That's how you navigate when you stop trying to control the environment and control the people, and you do the very best you can with the next thing. And I realized there was a pathway to ease in that. And I sat down after I finished the last chart on that Sunday night, and I took a picture of myself with my mask and my nice red face and all of that stuff. And I noticed in my picture, there was clarity. There was a clearness and there wasn't exhaustion.
Oh, your eyes were absolutely clear, Teresa.
Yeah, it was a very different experience to know how your thinking works and how that impacts your experience. And now that I know what that feeling feels like, it's much easier. But I don't think if I had not known about the 3 principles or how my thought works or how I was not listening to the love letters that my body was sending me, I could not have done that. And that's the breakthrough. That's the beauty of knowing how your thought works that gives you this sense of ease in life. So I've created what I call my self-care plan or my truth meter. And it's knowing that there's 3 principles that are supporting us at all times: mind, consciousness, and thought. And that my reality is created through this thought bridge that literally only works one way. The principles, they're supporting me, but it's my personal thought that creates this reality that I experience. And there's nothing else ever happening. My agreements that I make when I look at people, you know, I'd never considered that I only experienced other people by the way I thought about them. Intellectually, I knew that, but when I realized that was a reality, I went, oh, I really don't know these people as well as I thought I did. And it's especially easy to do with family members, especially your children. You've raised those people, you know, and understanding that every single person here on earth is here for their own journey to experience their own life was quite profound. I had heard it intellectually, but on this deeper level of reality and this one-way nature of life, it did something for me. It helped me to navigate a little bit better. So I created this poster that I know it's really busy, and I can drop the link in the chat if you want to kind of blow it up on your computer and look at it. But this is my internal dialogue that I use to help me, especially when I'm suffering. I don't often think about it when everything is going well and, it looks like there's no problems happening. But I pick a topic. Like if something's really bothering me, I'll name that topic. And I realize that I am always aligned with these principles. Mind, consciousness, and thought are always there as my foundation and don't change. That they only work one way. But sometimes, without wisdom, I start believing a circumstance, a person, a thing, gas prices, expensive food, children not doing what I think they should. Those things look like they could have something to do with the way that I feel. And this is where your free will comes in. You can actually choose to see joy even in the midst of chaos. So I ask myself, where do I think my feelings are coming from? And the answer is always my thoughts, my feelings coming right out my eyeballs. Everyone in the whole world is doing that. And I like this next question. It says, does everyone in my situation feel this way? Because I've heard people say this, well, anyone would feel this way. Well, that's actually not true. Someone else might say, doesn't bother me a bit, so it doesn't really affect me in that way. But when you ask that question to someone, say in a coaching conversation, well, does everyone feel that way? Could it be possible that there's another way to look at it? And it really slows us down a little bit to consider possibilities. And in that moment, you can really go, oh, that's right, it only works one way. And so this reflective question of what are the benefits of knowing that this is the way your thoughts work, like this one-way nature, it's one way of viewing life as your truth. How does it help you to know that? For me personally, it gives me pause to go, oh, there might be another way to solve this problem. Or maybe I don't have to give so much attention to things that aren't serving me. And when I had a conversation with my sister, and she was upset about some circumstances. And so when we first got on the phone, she was crying. She goes, I don't know what to do with myself. I don't know what my future holds. And she was like, I'm scared and I don't know what to do. And then we started talking about possibilities. And then suddenly we were talking about something else and we're laughing. And I said, stop, wait. And I said, did you see what happened in this one conversation? We started out in a really bad place crying. We moved into possibilities. And now we've excited about some possibilities. And now we're laughing. Do you see how your thinking was working? This one way of experiencing life. And she goes, I have never noticed myself doing that. And it did something for her because there's a deeper meaning when you experience yourself that way that gives you a different perspective, a true way of viewing life that helps us. And so I like to say there's no other place to be except for in this present moment, realizing that this system is here for our benefit, for us to learn, to decide, if you will, make decisions about how we want to live our life. It's as if we finally have a practical reason to be here. We have this ability to observe life and figure out, what do we really want? Because the past is gone. It doesn't exist. We have memories, but the only way we experience a memory is here in the present moment. You're not there anymore. I like what Wayne Dyer says. He said, if you think your childhood is still bothering you, go find that body. It doesn't exist. It only exists here in this present moment. And the future, a lot of people have a lot of anxiety about the future. It also doesn't exist. We have to make plans If we're going to go on a vacation, if we don't buy the plane ticket, we might not get there. But we won't know what it feels like to go on our vacation until we get there. And that too is in the present moment. So the big takeaway is knowing how these principles work triggers our truth meter. It gives us that locus of internal dialogue control that's like, oh, if that's the way my thinking works, what does that mean for me? And then you have to answer that question for yourself. This is where love, compassion, gratitude, and truly our strength resides. It's this place of ease. I asked my boss one time, I said, if you could have anything in the world, what would you want? And she said, I want the easy button. And I said, well, I know what the easy button is now. And we had a conversation about how our thinking works, because when you figure out for yourself how yours works, you now know how everyone else works. And it helps us drop judgment, self-criticism, helps us to navigate life with ease. And this is resilience. Resilience is actually not something you have to go get, it's something that you are. It appears every time you take a step. So thank you for listening, and open for any questions or comments.
Oh, Julie, welcome.
Hi, so sorry. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have a long commute and got stuck in my commute at my office and rushed in and see to my dog and see to other things. So I apologize greatly, but everything that you were saying and the time that I've been here is really important and spot on. I'm a therapist, so
So you know.
it's been my days.
It's been your day. Well,
trying to just guide people to that place within themselves. And this model, I'm going to have to go. Hopefully we can get your notes or your PowerPoint.
we're recording this and, and I'm gonna drop my care plan in I presented it as a poster.
Okay.
And that poster, Teresa, has our QR code for the newsletter.
It does.
Newsletter sign up.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send this so you can blow it up on your computer. I just put it on a sheet. Let's see. Oh, you can't edit, but you can certainly look at it.
Thank you. I want to look into it being one directional.
Well, you know, that is a very profound understanding. It takes a little while for people to grasp it, but when you know it's a one-way system and you're it does something for you.
Yeah.
It gives you that foundation or that grounding, like, oh, I like how Dr. Blevins talks about it. He says, I'm not ballparking here. I'm saying this is how the system works. And he's a scientific psychologist, so he's very detailed in his information. And when you have the ears to hear it, you will, sometimes people don't have they're like, oh, it sounds like a good idea, but it is a deeper conversation. But it's, profound. The day that I heard about it, my body healed from 5 years of chronic pain in an instant, literally.
Yeah.
Like, when you hear that thing that just makes your whole body buzz, and it literally went through my nervous system, down my back, out my hands and feet, and the pain just dissolved. Like it was gone. I sat in my chair in the middle of this conference, probably 30 people in there, and I thought, I'm floating. Can anybody see this? I went to stand up and I literally jumped up. Like it wasn't hard to get up.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Wow.
And I thought, you know what? If it can do it for somebody like me, it can do it for anybody. And that's why I do what I do. I want people to know there's hope.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very fun.
So, and my world is so much, I mean, my professional world is in therapy, neuroscience, but I'm also an RN, and I long have wanted to find a way to discuss and do in my own way, but model or a way to help people understand that.
Yes.
So
I did too. I wrote a goal in 2001
mhm.
that I wanted to find something that would help people in the middle of the night when no one was around.
Yeah.
And this is it.
Yeah. And it's interesting. You got to go through it. You can't go around it. I also am recently widowed, and I work with people with grief and the grief process, and you know, excuse me, I got the tail end of that, whatever is going around, but work with people, guiding them through grief, and until I am sort of experiencing it myself, it's a whole new understanding, and what I hope to be able to mention in a mind way to my clients, to kind of not be afraid of that journey, and what is that going to look like for you, and so much. So I
Oh,
appreciate, I wish I could have been here earlier, but I'm looking forward to reading over.
I'm going to send you the link for the replay.
Thank you, Lynn.
Yes. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
To soak it in.
Yes,
And
thank you.
go to our website, nursecoaching.com.
Ah,
And Dr. Pettit and Dr. Blevins both have information there. You can find their, our videos. We have a lot of videos as well.
mhm,
Information about, we teach one thing, the principles. That's it, because they do the heavy lifting. We don't have to
mhm.
take someone all the way back to get healing. We don't have to dive into the problem to get healing.
Mhm.
When I first learned about how these principles work, it was like these little popcorn moments, like, oh, I've never seen it like that. I've never seen it like that. Like these little things kept falling away, like beliefs that weren't serving me. Like, it doesn't work like that. I lost interest. I literally lost interest in my own thinking about certain things.
Mhm.
And I went, huh, that's a new experience.
Yeah.
And then one day I had this giant epiphany. It was so exciting. And I came home and I told Lynn all about it. And we teach a class on Wednesday nights. And she was like, well, share that in class. So like 3 hours later, she goes, so do you want to share what happened? And I was like, Lynn, it's gone.
Mhm.
Like, it's gone. Never has been recovered.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have the record of actually telling Lynn about it, I wouldn't maybe have even noticed.
Mhm.
But I thought, oh my goodness, that's what it feels like when those train tracks that have been laid down forever break
Mhm.
apart, and new feeling and new emotions, new thoughts come through
Yeah.
that are true.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I call my care plan, my self-care plan, your truth meter.
Mhm.
Because if it's not true and it only works one way, what does that do for you?
Mhm.
Oh, I like truth. I want to know something that's true and for a fact. And it continues to help me.
I do the same in my practice with suggesting to people, stand in your truth, somatically ground yourself, feel it, you will know. And almost always they are talking about, and I said this, I did this, I realized this, and I'm like, be in that, stand in that. So it's kind of similar. The truth meter, that's a good, I like that.
I love it because Is it true? Is it not true?
Mhm.
Do I have an attachment to that thought or not? I mean,
Yep.
I can have an attachment if I want to. I
Yep.
just know that when I do, I'm going to suffer. And I
Yeah.
don't really like that.
Yeah.
And so that's my cue to go, oh, where do you think your experience is coming from?
Mhm.
And the more that I'm in the conversation, the more that I get it, because it's not really in these words or metaphor. It's a
Yeah.
metaphor.
Yes.
It's
Right.
not in the words. So
Right.
there's this deeper meaning that you can't put the words on.
Mhm.
And so, but it's powerful and it is real.
Mhm.
It's not a, I don't know how do you say that. I'm
It's
just going to say it's
healing.
real. Yeah.
You use the word for yourself, kind of the
Mhm.
sense of healing.
It definitely,
That-
absolutely. I like
Yeah.
that.
So, well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, Julie, thank you for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank
Wonderful
you.
to have you with us.
I'm very conscientious, or try to be,
Mhm.
and I apologize so much. I would
Oh,
not,
no, you're
know.
perfectly welcome anytime.
Yeah, thank you.
You were here for what you needed to hear. I bet you.
That is true. And here for my new pound puppy. that
Oh,
he actually has been going with me to my office. I have a side office that he can be in that room, but
Oh,
he has been so such a new blessing.
oh,
wonderful companion.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm not I mean, I am absolutely supportive and encouraging of people and their animals and their attachment and
yep.
but I saw myself in but I'll tell you, he's just a great soul. This new dog that was a stray, and I don't know who needed who more, but anyways, so having to get home and helping him. Oh, no, I lost you. Oh no.
Oh, we see you.
Oh, do you? Okay. Darn. And I'm sitting with this on, I rushed in and I've got my computer on my knee, which is
Ah, right.
so I sorry if I'm like dizzying.
No, you're
See if I
great.
can
I'm
bring you
really
back.
grateful that you're here.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I hope I didn't lose you.
No,